would like to see is a map of where everybody comes from, and put the dots on how far people have come to get here.
That makes sense. I suspect it's reasonably far, but it's also, I always think this convention is probably pulling a lot of the local gamers more. I was always suspect that more of the people here are from Ohio and Indiana and say Kentucky. And
see, my husband's always wanted to come more from Canada.
Yeah. Oh yeah. People definitely come here because of the board games.
But yeah, because of the games for sure. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so Bob's Brain is a psychotherapy game that I've used in group therapy and in individual therapy for, like I say, over 20 years. And I just this year decided I'm going to get it up into a form that I could offer to other people because it's a really useful tool. And essentially it helps people think about their brain and self-talk. So it uses a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy ideas. But it could be applied to other settings as well. Like you could certainly use it in education, teaching teenagers little impulse control. All right. So before we get started, you need to understand that we are Bob's Brain.
You and I together.
Yes. And if we had more players, Bob would have a wider range
and
of
a lot
imagination.
more impulses.
Yes. And so the first thing we need to decide is who Bob is. So who would you like Bob to be?
Bob should maybe be a gamer.
Okay, Bob is a gamer, male or female?
Male.
Male. Any idea of about how old Bob is? I noticed that both of us have this.
How about 40?
40, okay. So Bob is young.
Yes, relatively speaking.
Okay, so now one of the players is the game host, or in the rules it says the therapist.
Okay.
And the therapist comes up with situations that Bob is in and problems. And we, the brain, come up with decisions for Bob. And so you're going to be cued in your decisions by action cards, some of which are in here wrong.
Sorry, I don't know if I did that.
No, you didn't. That's me. So an action card has a picture on it, for the home audience, a picture, and a little descriptive phrase. And this gives you some cues on what you might want to have happen. But what actually happens is you make up a little story about Bob's decision. And you're not just thinking a thought, you're thinking, what will the sequence of actions be? So I think, I'm going to think a positive message and everybody's going to love me. Nice thought. The other player can play a card and add to it, or contradict it. Oh, no, that doesn't happen. This happens instead. If they contradict, we roll dice, high roller wins.
Okay.
After each player has had a chance to play a card, the turn ends, and the therapist looks at what happened and then makes up what the natural consequences are from that
the cards
decision.
on the table, yeah.
So if Bob makes good decisions, the consequences are probably going to be pretty decent. That doesn't mean he'll be problem-free. But if Bob does bad things, then it might go very badly for Bob. Now, the only other rub in this is half of the players in Bob's brain want Bob to succeed. So I want Bob to succeed.
Right.
The other half of the players want Bob to fail. We want Bob to be a loser in life.
Okay.
I give you that role because it's a lot easier to be negative than it is to be positive, as you will find.
Okay.
So you get 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you.
And I get 5.
Oh, can I look at them?
Yes, you may. And we will be keeping our hand at 5 throughout the game. So, alright. Now, typically the therapist doesn't play, but when you have a 2-player game, the therapist does play. Alright. So The therapist comes up with a problem. All right, Bob is at a big game convention.
Okay, in Ohio?
In Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, in fact. And he's been in the dealer room, and he has seen a lot of games that he just loves. And he would really like to get them. He does have a budget, and this would blow his budget. So, Bob, what do you do?
So do I go first?
The person who throws down a card first is the one who starts off.
Okay, so there's no rules about order.
Nope. It's you want to have people whose energy is up, do it. So in a large group, there's always going to be some people who are, outward-going. That's cool. The other people who are quiet, learn from them. So
I think I've got the wrong set of cards, but I'm going to throw that down.
So break down a problem. What happens?
He has to look at how much money each game costs. He has to look at how many players each game has, how often he can play it, which ones he can live without, which ones fit in his budget, which ones he can't live without.
I'm going to add to this. He reassures himself that all of these games that he wants are going to be in the local game store. He's not going to miss out on them. He doesn't need to mess up his budget.
Okay.
Now I built on it so we don't roll.
Okay.
Instead,
you set it aside?
Set it aside.
How do you decide a winner?
Well, given that it's a therapy game, there really isn't a winner or loser. That's a hobby game idea.
Yes.
So generally at the end of these games, I get an idea of who may have learned the most. So yesterday I ran the game for 4 people, 2 of whom were high school girls.
Okay.
And the one who was the quietest and who had the hardest time coming up with ideas, I made her the winner because very clearly she had to work the hardest, and I'm certain that she learned the most in the game.
Yes.
So
she had to learn to speak with strangers, which is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now we both draw back up to 5 cards.
Okay.
So, okay. Bob is still at the gaming convention.
Okay.
And he is playing in a game of some card game that we won't mention. And he is playing against a character who is loud and obnoxious and abusive. And Bob is losing, and this guy is rubbing it in. What does Bob do?
My job is to make Bob go off the rails.
Yeah, you want to get Bob in trouble. So tell us
the situation exacerbates. Bob gets really angry. Maybe he gets a little verbal with the guy. Tries to put him in his place.
All right, and Bob gets a real winning hand, and he just feels euphoric as he crushes this creep in the game.
Okay.
So again, we built.
We built, yes.
So no rolling. Draw back.
Oh yeah. Not getting the cards. I need to be the bad guy.
Now with cards.
Yes.
Think of it as the inspiration. It's not. There's the literal meaning of the card.
Right.
Then there's the flipping the meaning of the card. So say it says, I lose. I can make my story about how I don't lose. So you can take it either direction you want.
Okay.
And of course, this is the way it is in life. If we're creative with what we learn, we can do much more than if we limit ourselves. So anyway, Bob has unfortunately, by being kind of euphoric and crushing this guy, he's missed the fact that this guy is a jerk, and he is a bad loser.
Okay.
And he flips the table over. What does Bob do?
Sorry, detach.
Detach.
Bob.
Okay.
Okay, he steps back.
Yeah, he steps back and goes, dude, it's a game.
Okay. I'll do that. And again, it's no dice. So
forgive.
He talks the other guy down, gets him to forget that it's a game. They go for a beer and they're happy. I like this card.
All right. Bob is now home from the convention, and despite his best efforts, he has gone over his budget.
I don't know how many people here are like that. Probably a lot.
It can happen. So, how is he going to deal with his wife when he gets home? Lie. Okay, got you. Tell the story.
He took cash. It was in a pile that was saved up from home, and he only shows her the credit card receipts.
And let me see. Do I have any of that? Actually, no. I kind of like that. I think I haven't got a thought, so we will let that go through. Now Bob has lied. Draw a card. Okay.
Oh, I'm getting good cards.
Hey, this money problem doesn't go away because they're walking out in their yard and they find a shingle lying on the lawn.
Been there, done that.
Okay, and they look up and of course they see where the shingle has come off the roof. And Bob knows what that means. Okay, Bob, how do you handle it?
Bob doesn't want to talk to the wife and tell her he lied.
Fix it. He says, I think I can put that shingle back.
Okay.
And so he gets the shingle and he sticks it back up there. You know, slides it in underneath. Ooh. 2 months later, during a very strong shower, there is dripping inside the house.
And he says to his wife, "Did you have an overly large tub again? It's your fault."
Okay. Yeah, that's a bad idea. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm the bad guy.
Bob, inside, he thinks, "Stop, Bob. Stop. Shut up, Bob. Shut up." Oh, we need to get a ticket for him.
Oh yes, sorry. Thank you. Thanks.
And he managed to shut himself up, but he's already
in deep doo-doo.
He's already dug the hole. At least he didn't dig himself any deeper in.
Oh.
All right. Bob's wife is unhappy with him, and she starts spending more time out at her mother's house.
And Bob can't go anywhere because he doesn't have any money. So he sits at home and drinks.
And while he's sitting there, he feels really guilty about what he's doing. And he feels really badly about drinking, too. It just seems like he's doing a stupid thing. As he's doing it, he knows it's a stupid thing to do.
Oh, me too, yes.
All right.
Are these cards rigged that I have to make Bob be good in the end?
No. I mean, I tell you, most of my cards are really not helpful.
I think we should change decks for our roles here.
Want to switch?
All right.
Now, the beauty of a therapy game is the point of it is to stimulate conversation.
Yeah.
So you can play around with it. You can stop at any time and have a discussion, or completely mess with it. You wouldn't do this in a hobby game.
No, people would be throwing tables around.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. But I know I've seen that happen at least once. Not at a convention. All right. Yeah, these are much
Yeah,
much
you see, they're
better.
good guy cards, aren't they?
Yeah. All right. So
Bob's feeling. Oh, he was guilty.
Bob has they've gotten the roof repaired. It cost them. Well, I brought that up because I'm actually having to have my roof re-roofed.
We did ours in the fall. The water came in.
So unfortunately for us,
5,000.
well, ours is 6, but we have an old house with a very steep roof. But fortunately, we haven't had any water come in. So anyway, it's $6,000 for him to fix his roof, and so he's really not happy. He doesn't have much money. His wife is still angry with him.
But she doesn't know. Does she know about the money yet?
Well,
she must have seen the MasterCard bills by now.
No, I'm not certain. Maybe you should make that happen.
No, I think you've got better cards than I do at the moment for that. Bob is going to. He's afraid of all this financial worries and so on, so he takes a second job.
Okay.
To pay off the roof.
It takes a while, but because he's taken responsibility, he's not digging himself in deeper, which is always a good idea.
Are you guys playing right here? Yeah. They're going to play this side?
All right. Oh, card.
Card, yeah.
Okay, good.
And now I'm beginning to draw cards that will really hurt.
No, look, where would you see? I put all that stuff here to save you space. Like all that stuff.
So, the next situation Bob is in. His wife has been spending a lot of time at her mother's, and Bob's mother-in-law has always hated Bob. And clearly she has been feeding negative opinions about Bob to his wife. And Bob realizes that he's got a problem here. It's not money.
Okay. So he falls into hopeless despair. He's already drinking. I don't know what else. Well, no, he can't be drinking if he got the second job, right? So
he has less time to drink.
He has less time to drink. So maybe he's given up the drinking, but he's still despairing.
Okay. Bob fights his way out of the despair, and he bucks himself up and says, "I'm gonna get through this."
Okay.
But I have admitted that he is in despair.
You have.
Yes, I didn't contradict you. Instead, I added.
Mm-hmm.
So
we don't get to roll the dice.
Bob's in despair, but he's working his way out of it. All right.
I just want to make sure
Bob's not been sleeping well lately, and he's very tired all the time.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys do the same one a lot.
Of course, we already know he's feeling despair, and occasionally he drinks. Wife's not happy. Doesn't have any money. What happens?
He has to work all the time.
No. There's two randomizers. There's a cornucopia one saying, oh, I sold my cornucopia and I didn't
What happened? I don't have good cards. I want to die.
I want to die.
Oh, who?
Bob starts having some suicidal thoughts.
And he doesn't like where he is. He's I don't know if he's at bottom or nearly at bottom, but he decides he's going to turn around and attack the problem. And he's going to call his wife and ask for a date. They're going to go out for dinner somewhere. He's going to make it at his house because he can't afford to take her out.
Okay, draw your card. She comes over for the date. What happens? This is key because Bob. It's interesting how that does happen when you're taking negative people.
I'm trying to, and I've got great cards for it.
It's a lot of times it helps you begin to see the other perspective when you try out a role. But of course, we sort of anticipate what's going to happen, and in our minds we write the story. It doesn't ever work out that way, but depending on how you think about it, it really does predict outcomes being more positive. So, like when I'm selling at like Gen Con, my wife and I will say, we're going to sell 5 of, and we pick some product. And we sell 5 of them. It might be something we hadn't sold before, but we sell 5 of them. I don't know why. We set a goal on how much money we want to make. And we are much more likely to make that amount of money when we set a goal. So this thinking ahead, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's cognitive therapy.
Yes.
Cognitive economics.
Ooh, there's a thought. I'm certain there's a field for that.
Okay, Bob is giddy at this dinner. He goes all out. He digs out the dusty candles, and he makes a really nice meal of one of her favorite things.
And they end up having fun.
Having fun. Okay.
All right, next situation. Bob's wife is feeling a lot better about him. She's home more.
Okay.
So it's like Bob's next step. What is Bob going to do next? I mean, clearly life's not perfect, but what does he do with his challenges?
He's going to admit that he spent too much money at the con, and now I'm the good guy again. And he's going to say that's why he took the second job, because that's why they didn't have money for the roof.
And he explains why he did it, and he admits his fault even more. So he's able to say, I'm sorry, but also able to say, I'm at fault, I was the jerk. Bob's wife says, well, you aren't telling me anything I didn't already know about you being a jerk. But she laughs as she does it. She seems to have accepted this apology. But of course, you know, actions are more powerful than words. So what happens next for Bob? This is where we are actually predicting our futures, and predictions are powerful.
Yes, and I have to decide if I want to be the good guy or the bad guy. You know what? I'll put that down. She accepts that he's trying to reform. She offers a few suggestions on how she can support him in this. And he makes a few suggestions on how he can be responsible to her in making community chest kind of decisions.
Okay. And he also begins a meditative practice. Nothing too wild or anything like that. But he does start doing this centering thing, and he doesn't know what will happen from it. But it seemed like a good idea. He read it in a book.
And maybe you can get a job out of it later.
You never it's the next year, and time has come around for that convention in Ohio. Panic. Tell us the story.
He, with his 2 jobs and the roof leaking and all the alcoholism and all of this stuff, he hasn't had time to play the games that he acquired last year, but he still wants to get more games, and he's panicked because he wants to go to Ohio, so he doesn't know what to do.
So he represses this urge to go to the convention and decides it would be better for his marriage if he stayed home.
Yes.
You know, pretty soon he won't have to have this second job anymore. And
then he won't feel too guilty to play his games.
And maybe he'll get to play games in the future. But for now, no. All right. One last round.
Okay.
Bob looks back over the last year, and he has to make sense of it all. What sense does he make of it?
He's going to select when to avoid or not avoid temptation. He's going to select when to choose honesty and relationships first over spending money.
And he looks at how close he came to losing it all, and he expresses gratitude through his meditation practice with this secret society that has these 12 steps and
single letter acronyms.
And single letter acronym will be nameless. And he said, and he realizes that his life is, even though it's not perfect, it's basically okay.
And we saved Bob, even though I tried not.
All right. So this time around, Bob's life turned out to be okay, and we did this in like a half an hour.
Yeah.
So in a therapy game, you then would follow it up with debriefing. So, the first thing you'd like to ask is, what do you take away from this game? What did you see and realize?
I think for this game, it's important on who the therapist is and what their ability is to turn things around. You obviously want somebody who's if not experienced, at least clever with figuring that out. Mm-hmm. In a 2-person game, it's very different because
we're both his brain.
Yeah, but if there were other people, they could be throwing in all kinds of other things. Like at one point, I didn't have negatives, and I needed to keep the roll. Mm-hmm. So if there were other people throwing in stuff, that would have been different. It would have been much more complicated for the therapist to come up with how to tweak it positive.
Well, the interesting thing is the therapist, when they're doing this, I don't care as a therapist whether it goes positive or negative. I'm neutral on that. If they come up with ideas that suggest a positive outcome, I'll give that to them. And that's good because they could then learn, this sequence of events seems to do good. But if they come up with ideas that are like bad, then you give them the natural consequences that flows from that, and they go, oh, what do you do next? Sometimes people will pull it out. Like we had Bob go into some funks here.
He was spiraling, yeah.
But he came out of it. Whereas in